They did stuff last year. We had a dollar package where we had one linebacker in there and 7 DBs. Our nickel package where we got 2 guys in there. And then 3-3-5 on paper is what we label those guys as. It's not that far from what we do here with our end and our cat and our nose. And then we've got our 2 linebackers. And then depending on, what I like, they did a great job last year. If you look at what Arizona was doing at the end of the season on defense, they're one of the top 10 defenses in the country. There's no doubt. We're excited to expand on that. I think Coach Aquina's doing a great job of getting us all together on the same page, and some influences from Josie Malu with what they did at San Jose State up front and what he's been. The great thing about so the history of, and this is fascinating, and I talk way too much, so move on when you want. The way of the 3-3-5 or the origination of the 3-3-5 and what Coach Long built and what we did for 20 some years. Well, Coach Long was up in Canada with Rich Ellerson, Don Matthews. The origination of the Desert Swarm. Coach Aquina and Rich Ellerson. Rich Ellerson came here about 3 weeks ago and we spent a whole day, and I'm sitting in like Disneyland as a football coach. So that history of those with the flex defense and those guys, that stuff we've used stuff together and collaborated over the last 25 years. So now you got Desert Swarm, you got Dick Tomy, what Rich Ellerson and what Coach Aquina did in the secondary, David Phipp, all those guys. And now we're even more migrating what we've done together for the last 25 years, what they've done for the last 25 years. And now Coach Malu, who was a Rich Ellerson guy at Cal Poly, we're all about to have some fun around here. And that's really exciting to be a part of that.
When you were at ASU, it was clear how quickly you poured into the history of ASU.
Mm-hmm.
The teacup. Have you had a chance to do that with Arizona?
So
what have you learned?
Here's the at the beginning of a job, I don't have anybody at home to go to, and FaceTime has made this deal very workable. I can sit up here in the office till 9, 10, 11 o'clock at night on FaceTime with my wife. She goes to bed and I'm piddling around, whether it's researching the Terry Tola Cup from this side now, whether it's the history of Arizona football and understanding. Coach Tomy was here for 14 years. And those teams, the Desert Swarm they had, whether it be in the early 90s or 97, 98, 99, those teams. In 97, I was in New Mexico as a junior, and we played here in the it was the Copper Bowl, and then it turned into the Insight.com Bowl like 3 weeks before we played in it, right here in the football stadium. Those having that connection, and then if you go all the way back, my time in New Mexico, especially as a youngster, Kit Carson, now I might get in trouble with this because of all the politically correct and all those things, but the Kit Carson rifle was a trophy that went between those two schools. So having that rivalry, and then now obviously the Territorial Cup with them being an hour and a half up north, and having experience on both sides of it now, I'm excited to be on this side of it. The Block A. We were at the Mountain West. The Big Pac-12 basketball tournament this weekend in Vegas. Got to do both, see Pac-12 action, Mountain West action. Coach Brennan's cousin plays for GCU, so I got to go to the WAC championship game, walking around, and there were some Sun Devil fans saying, "Coach, that Block A looks really weird on you." The New Mexico people saying the same thing, and guess what? I'm a Wildcat. I'm all in. I'm gonna wear the Block A everywhere I can, as proud as can be. I was at the baseball game last night, and it was 14-3, and I was sitting there thinking, because if you go back to my Twitter in the spring of 2018, if we would have beaten these boys 14-3, I'm up down. I'm like, okay, now I'm gonna look like a hypocrite if I get up on there. So I just sat back there and enjoyed the baseball game and watched our guys freaking sticks on fire, and now they won the first two. So it'll be fun. I'll get more. People will see. I'm gonna do it slow. I'm a slower pace, and then we'll ramp it up.
When you look at that linebacking group, what stands out when you have all these returning players that you get to work with?
Well, we've got 116 tackles coming back in Jacob Manu, who was the best linebacker in the Pac-12. He's going to be one of the best, if not the best, in the Big 12 going forward. What I appreciate about Manu and Noah, T-Mac, those guys did a great job of being leaders and the value that they provide to this football team, and that's why this football team has stayed together. Jacob Manu has an amazing voice in the locker room. So does Noah Fafita. I mean, those guys, uh, they're so powerful. They're so good with people, and that's why people gravitate to them. So, I mean, there's high expectations for Manu. And how do you repeat that performance? How do you do that? You give coaches to give you a chance, but coaches don't win games. Players win games. And you got players like Jacob Manu, you're going to have a chance.
How many stories have you already heard from Coach Akina about Dick Tomy? How many Dick Tomy stories have you?
Oh, it's been a fantasy land in there for me. I mean, because the aspiration I had, especially with Coach Tomy and Rich Ellerson and what Coach Ellerson and Coach Akina and those guys were able to do, and the history, the success of this program. I mean, that Coach Brennan was a part of a staff that was part of the most successful stint in Arizona football history. And being able to hear those stories, and now we're trying to replicate it. You can't be what they were because football is so different from now till then, but you can build off of the history and the traditions of that and put our spin on it. So that's been so valuable every day.
What have you learned during your time, not only at New Mexico, but previous stops? What is the number one thing you've learned throughout the years coaching to this point?
It's the easiest thing. You want to be a good coach, get good players. It all comes down to recruiting. Recruiting has changed over the last 3 or 4 years because of NIL. I mean, it's if you're at Texas, if you're at Ohio State, if you're at Alabama, um, you get to pick from the best players. You can only used to be able you can only take 25. Now they've eliminated that number. But where we've been very successful in my career and is evaluating, finding guys that 2 or 3 years down the road are great players that people weren't willing to take a chance on. Now you can't in a recruiting class, you might be able to miss on 1 or 2. You can't miss on 5 or 6 because over the 4 or 5 year period, that number's 25, 30 players, then you're done. So the most valuable aspect of it is recruiting and then being able to develop. The NIL world, which you got to be able to sell kids is you can stay here and develop and become a better player. And don't worry about the minutia that you're going to get from an NIL deal now. If the carrot is still the big picture of the NFL, there's still only 0.2% of players that play college football go to the NFL. So you can't sell a pipe dream that the NFL is the ultimate goal because 0.2% of your football team, they're all making it. So they better get a degree. You better help them become better people. And then if they have a talent and the ability, then you be able to develop that. And if you can service them, then they're going to stick around. If you can't, then they need to move on.
And then looking at this coaching staff, a lot of experience on the defensive side of the ball, just getting to work with these guys. What have you already learned about them, and what are you excited about this season working with these dudes?
Very energetic, great passion. We all have the same philosophy of they have to know what to do, they have to know how to do it, and they all better get to the ball in a bad humor. All of them. Keep them out of the end zone. Take away the ball and keep them out of the end zone. I mean, that philosophy about effort, about how hard they're going to play, how many guys you're going to get to the ball. I mean, when you get to this level in the Big 12, everybody's going to have great players. It's who can cancel out the great players by giving them a chance and how hard do they play.
And then the call from Coach Brennan, what was that like, getting that phone call, and how did that really all come about, you being here at Arizona?
Coach Brennan went through a whirlwind when he got hired. I mean, everything happened so fast after Coach Saban retired. And then Kalen goes, then Washington, then Coach Brennan had such a whirlwind of trying to keep the team together and did a phenomenal job. But like I said earlier, you've got to give the team credit because they didn't know Coach Brennan. They didn't know any of the new coaches other than Coach Akina who had been here. And Coach Akina was a huge part in keeping that nucleus, but you got to give the credit to the kids. And then once he started to settle down, he's continued to put his staff together and put his feelers out there. And known Coach Brennan for a long time. Always wanted to work with. Ford didn't matter to me. I mean, we've been friends through recruiting, through golf tournaments, through being head coaches and being on the meetings together. He called one afternoon. I was actually at Home Depot. He said, "You want to be a Wildcat?" I said, "I'll get on my bike tomorrow." Absolutely. I'd love to go help you build that thing up. And my wife was in the car. I don't ever do anything without giving my wife an opportunity to help make the decision. She was chomping at the bit. Her and Courtney Brennan are our friends, good friends. And so it was a great opportunity. I'm so excited to be here.
What do you remember from those battles with Coach Brennan, you at New Mexico, him at San Jose State, and those games?
Both teams were very, very physical. You can go back to the 2005 New Mexico Bowl. They beat us 20-12. They had two great wideouts. Coach Brennan is a wideout coach by nature. Those guys, I think James Jones was one of them, played unbelievable physical and athletic. Our teams, when I was at San Diego State and Coach Brennan became the head coach in 2016, we freaking walloped them. 2017, really good football game. 2018, I was gone now. 2018, I think they beat them in 2020. They beat them in 21. So, I mean, what Coach Brennan was able to build through the physical tenacity that his football teams play with, great battles. And you better be prepared and you better get your kids prepared because that's what you're going to get. And to watch him build that thing in a place that the history that they had to move that needle. I mean, I try and tell Coach Brennan all the time, you can't appreciate what you did because you were inside of it. But from the outside looking in, the respect that he has for what he built there, I mean, it's unbelievable.
What have you been able to experience already in Tucson? Maybe going to a restaurant, going and doing something. What have you done already in Tucson?
Everybody knows, and it's so we have a tradition in my family since our girls were little. We would take all four of our kids to Disneyland the day after signing day and spend a couple of days up there. Because Dad's been away for long, recruiting in and out, we'll get out, so it's an opportunity to recharge and reset. You walk around with the Block A at Disneyland, all you hear is bear down, bear down, bear down. It's awesome. In the city of Tucson, there's nothing else. It's the Arizona Wildcats. There's nothing else. Here's a great story that I'll give you. In 1988, okay, Arizona Wildcats ranked number 1 in the country in basketball. Sean Elliott's on that basketball team. Lute Olson brings him to the pit in Albuquerque, New Mexico. I'm at that game as a 12-year-old, screaming my head off for the Lobos. I'm excited. We beat them. Lute Olson after the game says, I will never play there again. They cheat. We probably did cheat, but I'll never play there again because you can't go. And guess what? They didn't come back during his time. And so as a little kid, I'm like, oh, man, Lute Olson, man, wow. So I get this job, and Jody Breezy, who's Lute Olson's daughter, who's the principal at Catalina Football High School, calls my daughter, our 10-year-old has Down syndrome. And so we've been big on her being in a general education classroom, fully included, because her peers are going to learn from as much from her as she learns from them. And so how do we get her in that environment? Because the everyday world is we all live together. We don't segregate people because they have a disability. And so Lute Olson's daughter was so valuable in giving my wife information on what they do in Catalina Foothill School District. In District 16, I'm so excited that that's what we're going to move and be a part of. And she's telling my wife and she's telling me this story, and I'm like, God, Lute Olson is a legend. And then I've matured and gotten older. I mean, the appreciation I have for what he done and being starstruck by my wife being able to talk to his daughter and the legend that he is around here. I mean, I'm 12 years old. You're a crybaby. That man is what he did for Arizona basketball. I mean, we're getting ready to go on a run and have a chance to win a national championship with what Coach Lloyd and them are doing over there. And having the opportunity to be a part of that's like for a little kid that lived through that and all those emotions. I'm living the dream. This is awesome.
Is this more going to be like a 4-2, 4-3?
It's going to be. I mean, we're based out of a 4-2-5, but you can put whatever you want to put on a paper. We're going to have packages where we have 7 DBs and 1 linebacker in their 3D line. We're going to have packages where we have 2 D linemen and 4 linebackers, or 3 linebackers in there and 6 DBs. We're going to whatever gives us the best opportunity to be successful on game day and put our best players on the field is what we're going to do to have a chance to be successful.
How important is that, having that adaptiveness in today's college football with how many different offenses there are and how many different styles of offenses there is?
If you're a dinosaur and you don't stay ahead of it, and that's why I want to give Coach Long a ton of respect and credit. Coach Long was very he wanted to stay in front of it. He wanted to, I mean, when in 2003, whenever Meyer took the job at Utah, and he brought his spread flex bone out of quads, and they're running all that triple option. We made it a significant importance in 2002, that summer, to, okay, if that's what they're going to do, then we got to find a way to stay ahead of them. And we whooped there. I mean, that was Urban Meyer's only loss in the Mountain West Conference, and we beat him 45-23, and give credit to Coach Long for being an innovator. Now, what did we have? We had great players. If you want to be a good coach, get good players. And then when you cancel the talent, you give them a chance by scheme. And so staying ahead of that and what we're doing here, and Coach Aquina, I mean, being able to be at 3 different stops for 14 years apiece and still have that value and play for a national championship. And the kids, I mean, if you watch our secondary had a chance to leave as an NIL deal and go to Alabama, Mississippi, all those places, and they stuck together because of the development of Coach Aquina. That's outstanding. That's awesome.
Are you surprised?